Welcome back, you filthy sons of whores, to yet another response video. As always, this is a response to the comment section of a different video. If you haven't seen that different video, which should be in the right-hand corner of your screen, I think, then I don't know what you're doing watching this. Who the fuck starts watching a show halfway through the goddamn season? That don't make no damn sense. So, unless you just like being confused, if you haven't seen that video, go watch it and come back. Otherwise, I hope you enjoy the video, and if you do, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, share, and join the membership so you can get videos early. Okay? Okay. Let's get started. Alright, so first up, there were a couple of arguments that were being made against my Cyberpunk portion of the video. They were basically talking about the exact same thing. First one being that I didn't talk about all these massive tanks and mechs and all these other very destructive vehicles that exist within the Cyberpunk world. I was just really focusing on Atom Smasher and V, acting like they were the strongest beings in the Cyberpunk universe and disregarding all this other stuff that exists. And yes, that's true. I didn't talk about any of the military-based shit. This was mainly because we see David Martinez take on the military in Age Runners, including an entire tank division, and wipe them out without even really trying. But I do understand that this shit happens in levels, and I should have brought up the other types of weaponry they have. Like, for instance, that big-ass fucking tank that V uses to assault Arasaka. I think it's called the Sun ending. Basically the ending where you call up Pan Am and join the Nomads and assault it. You drive this big fucking tank. As well as there being a massive tank that is actually a boss fight in the Phantom Liberty DLC. The argument was that military vehicles like this are clearly superior to V and Atom Smasher, and they would do a better job against the demons, so I should have put less focus on V and Atom Smasher. But I kind of disagree. For one, in Phantom Liberty, V does defeat that tank in the boss fight. You do beat it. And you unlock the Phantom Liberty DLC pretty early on in the game when V is not nearly as powerful as he is by the end. I mean, at the beginning of Cyberpunk 2077, V and Jackie are both struggling to take on one mech. And by the end of the game, V is capable of assaulting Arasaka Tower on his own, including taking out multiple of these mechs by himself. So there's a clear power difference here. V gets stronger and stronger throughout the entire game until he eventually surpasses Atom Smasher, who is lauded as the strongest thing in all of Night City. So while yes, during a lot of that fight, V is running away, trying to escape and survive from that tank in Phantom Liberty, I don't think that would necessarily be the case later on in the game when he's at a stronger point. As for the tank assault at the end of the game, when you call up the Nomads, it's cool that you get to use the tank and the tank's really powerful and shit, but that's one of the endings. One of the endings, you jump in the tank and you assault Arasaka, and that's cool, but the other ending, you just assault Arasaka without the tank, and you're successful either way. You don't need the tank to assault Arasaka, so could V actually take on the tank? Possibly. I would even say that it's possible that V brought the tank so that he could protect Pan Am, because Pan Am was safely inside the tank with him. But I'm aware that that part is conjecture. At the end of the day, we don't actually know how V would scale to those tanks. We just know that David Martinez was able to destroy totally different tanks. Are these vehicles more powerful than V himself? I'm not so sure, but it's definitely possible. But whether it's possible or not, it doesn't really change my arguments. The Sentinels had literal kaiju fighting giant robots, and those robots were wiped out by the demons. In fact, it says in the lore that not a single Titan were ever taken down by any of the humans, regardless of any of their weapons. So I don't see why these much weaker tanks would really make much of a difference. The second argument that people brought up is why I didn't bring up Morgan Blackhand. And in case you don't know the history of Cyberpunk, basically back in 2020, Morgan Blackhand was arguably the strongest character in the entire series. He was equal to that of Atom Smasher. They were rivals, and for whatever reason, he's not in Cyberpunk 2077, but in the flashback, Johnny Silverhand assaults Arasaka Tower. Morgan Blackhand is there. He's mentioned in the game briefly, but he's supposed to be a part of the assault. He's just assaulting a different part of the tower. I think it was a mistake to not at least have him make an appearance because he's such a major Cyberpunk character. But yeah, basically, I didn't bring up Blackhand Morgan, and there's no evidence that he's dead, so why didn't I bring him up? And that's simple. There's no evidence of him at all. The demon invasion is happening at the end of Cyberpunk 2077 when the universe is shown to be at its strongest. That's 57 years after we last saw Black Hand Morgan in 2020. There's no evidence that he's just as strong now as he was back then. In fact, he likely isn't. All of the other characters are shown being significantly weaker or just straight up dead. The only reason why Atom Smasher is actually stronger than he was in 2020 is because he's no longer human. He's replaced literally all of his human parts with robotic parts. I think his brain might be the only part that's not machinery at this point. There's no evidence that Black Hand Morgan did that. And if he didn't, then he will have gotten significantly weaker over those 57 years, just like everybody else in the series did. But even if he didn't age at all and you locked him in a cryo chamber or some shit for the last 57 years, he would still be weaker than Atom Smasher because Atom Smasher got those upgrades. Atom Smasher has gotten considerably stronger than he was 57 years ago. Peak Black Hand Morgan just straight up doesn't compete anymore. So no, until we know that he also got those same upgrades to make himself even stronger, the assumption would be that he's an old man who's not nearly as capable as he used to. The strongest people in the series would still be V and Atom Smasher. And while I'm not going to go as far as to say that he's incapable of combat, because we see that Rogue is capable of combat, and she's just as old as Morgan Blackhand is, but she's also nowhere near Atom Smasher or V. In fact, in one of the endings, she could straight up be one-shot and killed by Atom Smasher. So yes, until it's confirmed exactly what's going on with Morgan Blackhand, there's no point in bringing him up because he's just like an old man version of himself. We don't know what he's capable of right now. And as for the entire rest of the world and not bringing them involved, there's stuff that exists in the new United States and other places. Russia's pretty powerful in the Cyberpunk universe, but 99.99999% of the story of Cyberpunk takes place in Night City. That's where everything we know is. Once that city falls and everything that we know of this universe is pretty much dead, other than like hearsay that we know about in other places, there's no evidence that there's anything in any of those other countries or places that are stronger than things like Atom Smasher or even that tank that we saw V fight against. We know there's some stuff, but none of it's going to make that big of a difference. I mean, Arasaka is one of the most powerful organizations in the world, and Night City is where they are. If Arasaka falls, there's no reason to assume that all the other ones won't as well. Alright, there really wasn't any arguments for Darkwatch, so I'm just going to continue on to Crysis. So first argument I saw a lot is that people were arguing against me saying that they wouldn't be able to use the Argent energy because it's made of souls, and they're not shown dealing with that shit. They only deal with like real energies or the alien energy, which is still just a type of energy. It's not made out of literal tortured souls. It's not magical. And basically the argument boiled down to if Earth was able to take Argent energy and use it for their weapons, there's no reason why the Crysis universe couldn't do the same thing. They couldn't just figure out how to use it. And my argument to that is that Earth didn't figure out how to use it. Samuel Hayden did. And remember, Samuel Hayden is not a human. He's a maker. The makers came together with the demons to create Argent energy. Samuel Hayden used the Argent energy to create all of Earth's weapons and basically power everything on their planet, but he's a maker. He understands how the technology works, and makers have magic. He's the only person who was able to actually use Argent energy effectively. Nobody else on Earth is shown being able to do that. So to say that Earth just figured out how to use human souls to power their shit isn't true. They didn't even know what Argent energy was. Another argument that people had that's kind of like a spin-off to the previous argument is that Prophet was able to essentially jack into the Ceph technology and then learn all of their technology with his suit, and couldn't he do the same with the demons? And I would argue no, because one, what the fuck is he gonna jack into? There aren't any computers in hell. And again, what exactly would he learn? Would he learn how to do magic? Because again, a lot of Argent energy is magic. Crysis is an entirely technological world. They don't have magic. I just don't see how Prophet or really anyone from that universe is gonna suddenly learn how to do magic through hacking and downloading information. If there even was anywhere to download the information from. You might as well ask if you can download the Dragonborn powers from Skyrim. Using fucking what? How would that even be possible? Sort of the same situation here. Last big argument I saw for Crysis, people were saying that I was super underplaying the Ceph, or basically just disregarding them entirely. So just to update you on some Crysis lore, basically the Ceph that we see in the game aren't actually the Ceph. The Ceph are said to be extremely technologically advanced, and they can basically make any technology that they want to. Any technology that you could possibly dream of, the Ceph can make. The Ceph that attack Earth are there on a mining expedition. So everyone in the game goes fucking insane trying to take out the Ceph who are invading the Earth when it's really just a bunch of fucking prospectors and miners. They're not the main military force of the Ceph. and we never actually see the full power of the Seth themselves. And that's true. But my question would be, how exactly am I supposed to fucking scale that? We haven't seen any of the other Seth. We don't know what they're capable of. So what exactly can I even say about it? Admittedly, I should have at least mentioned it in the original video, but we don't know what the Seth can do. And until the game actually tells us by showing the more military-based Seth, we don't know how powerful they are. So I'm basically just throwing out random guesses. I can only use what I see in the actual games or what is talked about. So will it eventually be revealed in Crysis 4 that the Seth are actually these godlike universe-destroying beings and would actually put up a really good fight against the demons? Maybe. But there's nothing I can really do about that in this video since we don't know that yet. You're asking me to throw darts at a dartboard blindfolded. Alright, last up is Borderlands, and this one had the majority of the arguments. And some of them brought up some very good points. So let's go. First one being Digistruct. I did not bring up Digistruct at all. And Digistruct, in case you're not aware, is basically something that exists in Borderlands where they can just essentially create things in seconds. They just digitally construct things and they exist within the real world. They can build an entire loader bot in like 2 seconds. And they can just continuously do this. This is why the warring that goes on in the Borderlands universe essentially goes on forever, because there's no limit to what they can make. They never run out of materials or anything. They can just essentially create things out of nothing. And people were saying that when the demons show up, they're not going to be able to corrupt the loader robots. The loader robots are just going to keep being made over and over and over and over again. Cool. But there's a limit to the Digistruct, right? Like, they can't Digistruct them anywhere in the middle of a battlefield. There are certain points within the world where they can Digistruct. They do it up in these massive, like, satellite spaceship things, as well as in certain factories down on Pandora and other planets. If a planet is being completely invaded and overrun by demons who are considerably more powerful than the loader robots, and there's a constant corruption that is infecting the entire planet, including the ground and the walls and the machinery, you can keep spitting out basic bitch weak ass loader robots all you want, they're still getting fucked. Again, the most powerful demons are universal level threats. They can destroy, warp, and consume entire universes. Digistructing a bunch of fucking weak ass robots is not gonna change their fate. It might prolong the war a little bit against the ground troops, but you also have to remember that the ground troops of demons are people from countless universes that have been corrupted and sucked into hell. Hell in the Doom universe is considerably bigger than anything in Borderlands. They can destruct as many robots as they want for the next several billion years, and they still would not have a fraction of the army that the demons have. There was another argument that the Digistruct can be used to bring people back from the dead, because that's what happens in gameplay. When your character dies, they get Digistructed back into the nearest Digistruct little fucking point thing. This one's simple enough. That's not canon. We see characters die constantly in the Borderlands universe. Digistruct cannot Digistruct people. It's just a cool little visual flair in game. But in canon, it has never once happened. You can't Digistruct flesh. You can only Digistruct mechanical shit. And when you Digistruct that mechanical shit, it cannot be like another mechanical thing that already died and bring it back. It's just a totally new thing. So like characters like Flak cannot just continuously come back over and over again. If you built a Flak with the Digistruct, it would be a whole new Flak that would not have the memories of the previous Flak. That's how Digistruct works in lore. Okay, last argument with Borderlands, and this is a big one. People were saying that I did not mention all of the highest tier characters of the Borderlands world. This would be characters like the Destroyer, the Guardians, that one fucking word I can't pronounce, starts with an A. They were introduced during the Tales series. Anyway, I didn't talk about any of these beings. So the Destroyer, I didn't talk about on purpose. The Destroyer is a galaxy destroying entity, but it doesn't work for anyone. It just destroys everything. So releasing the Destroyer would kill themselves as well as demons. So it wouldn't really be a victory. It would be like an attempt at a stalemate to release it. And while releasing the Destroyer would be a bigger threat against the demons than the demons otherwise would have against, say, just the Sirens, it still wouldn't be enough to kill them. Like I said, the Destroyer is talked about as being a galaxy level entity, whereas many of the Doom demons are universal entities, and the strongest Davith is a multiversal entity. So they'd still just bitch slap the Destroyer. Another one I didn't bring up is the Anihatium. Anihatium. This is the one that was introduced during the Tales series, and basically I was being told that it says in the lore that the Anihatium can warp reality on a universal scale. That sound familiar to anyone? Icon of Sin can do that. Like, that was the big thing. Like, just him existing within a universe warped all of reality across the whole universe and would lead to the complete destruction and breakdown of that universe. That's what makes the Icon of Sin so dangerous. He could literally just stand there in your universe and your universe will still fucking destroy itself. So even if I go as far as to say that the Anti-Hatium is equivalent to that of the power of the Icon of Sin, which I would argue against because I think passive universal reality warping without even trying is better than like having the ability to engage it. But I understand that's arguable. The Icon of Sin is not the strongest Titan. The strongest Titan is talked about as being already killed by the Doomslayer, and the game just calls him Titan, but I found out in the last couple weeks that the fan base calls him Champion because understandably it's dumb to call a Titan by the name Titan. So from this point on, I'm gonna call him Champion too. Anyway, Champion is stated to be the strongest and largest of all the Titans, and Doomguy killed him way before the events the game even starts. Actually, it'd be really cool if we get to see it in the new Doom the Dark Ages game. That'd be a cool fucking fight to see. My point is that this Anti-Hatium people, even if their power is equivalent to the Icon of Sin, there are still stronger Titans out there. Now, we don't know how many, and admittedly, the Icon of Sin might be the second strongest Titan of all time. Maybe he's right under Champion. That's possible. But even if that is the case, there are a ton of demon lords that exist within Hell that have been written about in lore books and art books, and Hugo Martin has actually talked about releasing a Doom Bible that's going to go over all the lore in way more detail than the games have been able to. But yeah, they've released pictures of like what the demon lords are supposed to look like, and some of them are really cool. I actually think that the final boss of Ancient Gods should have been a demon lord, not Davith, because it was a DLC and the Davith boss fight was very underwhelming. But even if Anti-Hatium is able to defeat the Icon of Sin, they still have to defeat someone vastly more powerful after that with the demon lords and then Davith. And lastly, we have the Guardians, who are able to fuck with time. They can go back and forth within time and alter the timeline any way they want. So would all the time shenanigans work? No. You'd have the same issues you had with time splitters. For one, the demons are higher beings that exist outside of time. They were created before time even existed. They don't register time the same way that other people do. If you change shit within the timeline, it's not going to affect them. They're just going to see the time change around them and be like, the fuck's going on? This is shown with the Cyber Demon fight in Doom 2016, where he remembers the fight that he had with Doomguy in an alternate timeline. Despite the fact that they haven't fought yet in this timeline, the Cyber Demon did not register the change in the events of time. He didn't care about it. So anything the Guardians do to try and alter time will not affect the demons. It'll affect everything around the demons, and maybe they can use that to their advantage, but it won't affect the demons themselves, as both beings exist above time. Now, it was stated by one person in the comments that the sirens are stated to be a causality or something. I'm not a scalar, I don't know these fucking words. And that basically going back in time and altering time cannot change a siren's existence. They will exist regardless of what time shenanigans you pull. So this will give the Guardians freedom to go back and change things without having to worry about altering the sirens. But again, you wouldn't be altering the demons either. In fact, Doomguy and the demons both have that acausality bullshit as well. The comm maker is capable of looking into every single possible future, all timelines across all universes. She could see into all of them. It's one of her powers. And in the Doom universe, there are infinite timelines, which means there is no one thing that should be inevitable. Essentially, all possibilities should be possible with infinite timelines. This is stated within the game. But when the comm maker looked into the future, it terrified the shit out of her because she realized that across every timeline in infinite timelines, there was one constant. And that constant was that no matter what, the demons would invade and Doomguy would kill her. That was a constant across all timelines, all universes, regardless of any actions taken by anyone else. Basically, Doomguy's whole power is his will, and what he wills to happen will happen. That's how his power is described. He has the power of will. He can will his guns to be stronger. His strength and speed match that of his will. If he wills something to happen, it will happen. That is Doomguy's power. It's not just really fast and really strong at shooting guns. And while the demons don't have this power, and I'm not going to argue that they do, they are the only other thing in the timeline that is inevitable. No matter what, if they want to invade your universe, it's going to happen. It doesn't matter what you do in the timeline to change that. Because again, they are timeless beings and exist above time. So yes, my fuck up, I did not bring up the most powerful beings in the Borderlands universe, but it doesn't really make much of a difference. The vast majority of people within the Borderlands universe is getting wiped out relatively easily, and then you're going to have a couple of god level beings at the top who, again, it's going to take the top level beings of the Doom universe to take them out, but they're still going to get taken out. The Icon of Sin is very likely enough to take out all three, the Guardians, the Anti-whatever, and the Destroyer by himself, but But even if he's not, you got the Dark Lord, you got the other Demon Lords, you have other more powerful Titans. Some of them actually have names and feats and shit. But as of now, it hasn't really been necessary to bring him up because nobody's really come up that could match the Icon of Sin. So no reason to bring up anyone else. But that's gonna be all from me. I hope you enjoyed the video. And you know, repeating all the bullshit, like, subscribe, share, all that kind of stuff. And always remember, y'all stay safe out there, you hear?